You know it. You know what time it is. It's 7 o'clock Monday night. Best sports coverage around. Sports on the Hill podcast on TRU RADIO Network. CP3 coming to you live from the lab. I already got the Facebook live feed started. So feel free to jump on there with any comments, questions, anything you want to talk about, because we have a full show tonight. This supposed to be the slow time of the year, so they say. Hockey season over, basketball season over, but we give you all types of coverage of everything. So tonight, we got Nationals talk, we got MLB talk, we got Brian Brennan on the line already, we got Paul the boxing guy on the line already. What's up, Tarzan? Appreciate you checking out the Facebook live feed. What's going on? Then we're going to talk some Wizards draft recap. We got possibly the whole NBA roundtable calling in tonight. We're not sure we're going to get everybody, but we're going to give you that in-depth breakdown of the draft picks the Wizards made, which I'm anxious to hear about. Then actually going to talk some United States women's soccer. We got Brian Brennan on the line. You know, he's a soccer guy, and hoping to get EJ on the line to talk some women's soccer. I hear they're killing it. I believe they have a crucial matchup coming up, and they had a game today. We definitely want to give them to break that down. Then we also going to talk about the Washington Mystics, who had a 3-0 week, who now sitting 7-3 and making some noise in the Eastern Conference. We'll break down some of those, well, all of those games, and look at their upcoming schedule. Then we'll talk about the Valor game that I went to last Thursday against the Baltimore Brigade, and that great finish to the game. And we'll be going to the game this Saturday versus the Atlantic City Blackjacks. I'll be shooting coverage for that also, so make sure you tune in. That's at 7 o'clock. Go down Capital One Arena. I'm sure tickets available. It's a fun game. You know, you saw the way the game ended last time. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. But before we get started, as always, I would like to thank you, the fans, the listeners, contributors, all the folks that tune in to Sports on the Hill podcast, that check out our videos, that read our posts. And, you know, without you guys, this would not be possible. So I want to thank you for continuing to make this one of the best shows out there, and believe me, we're about to expand, and other folks are going to find out about us too. But before we get started in the next talk, I'm going to bring in Brian Brennan and Paul the boxing guy, because I got some things to get off my chest about this past week of the Nationals implosion of the bullpen. Brian, how you doing tonight, good sir?
Doing well, Carol. How are you?
I'm doing good. We got some interesting things to talk about with Major League Baseball and these Nats. Paul, what's going on, bro? How you doing tonight, man?
My man, Carol, I'm doing great, my brother. Hope all is well with you.
Oh yeah. You know, life roller coaster. You know, we got to just hold on and keep riding the wave until we get to the ending gate, man. So I'm just riding the wave right now.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
But
sir.
let's go ahead and get into, because Paul, me and you have spoken extensively about the Trevor Rosenthal experiment. And I'm not going to go into great detail right now, because I'm not even going to break down that game. I'm just going to tell the story of what happened in that game. But we spoke about Trevor Rosenthal over and over again. And I believe I said on several occasions we needed to cut dead weight and let that man go. After that implosion, I sent out a tweet, and 12 hours later, they gave that man his walking papers. Now, I'm not saying the Nats are listening to me, but when folks want to question our knowledge and our insight, we might not be on one of those big networks. We might not be on mainstream radio where you can tune in on your radio dial. That's cool. But don't doubt the knowledge and the insight and the know-how that we got on this team. Paul, what do you think about this Trevor Rosenthal situation before I get on my soapbox and talk about some things I've been talking about for a while with this team?
Hey, man, if they listen to you on this one, I wish they had listened to me in the spring training when I said I think this bullpen is going to be some trash and they need to get some better arms in there. You know, it's just, you know, like we talked about Rosenthal a lot, man, and I had a saying that I used to say that this bullpen goes with Trevor Rosenthal. Not saying that he's the biggest name in that bullpen, but they brought him in here for a specific role, and I feel as though however he performed, that's going to tell you what the rest of this pen is going to do. Because if you got an arm in that bullpen that's shaky at best and catastrophic at worst as what he is, I mean, no one else can relax. No one can relax. It's a trickle-down effect. And, you know, I mean, it's almost like having a bad closer. You know what I mean? Sean Doolittle can't go every night. And imagine if he was a bad closer, right? So your starting pitchers are gonna be like, oh man, I make sure I gotta be up a few runs so they don't bring this guy in, or and the same thing with Trevor Rosenthal, man. I mean, you don't want to leave the game. So imagine the stress that it puts on your guys when you got a middle reliever or a setup guy or just anybody in that bullpen that's as catastrophic as he is. So don't want to wish bad on the guy, but he had to go. And you were right, man. Your tweet was in a timely fashion, and they were on a roll. And Trevor Rosenthal Trevor Rosenthal breaks, hit and slowed them down and stopped them in their tracks, man. And that 13-9 game, that was a gutting loss. So let's just hope that they can get back on track. They added a couple veterans I saw, and just go from here. Because they've shown that they still have it in them if they can stay healthy, man. So as long as the bullpen don't give up 12 runs a game, who knows where they can go.
No doubt. The bullpen has been doing better. Brian, on the outside looking in, you've been watching the Nats off and on throughout the season. I know you're a Yankees fan and been enjoying their first place, run that they've been having. But what did you think about Trevor Rosenthal when this team picked him up? And do you think they waited too long to pull the trigger to get this guy out of here, even though he had a so-called injury that, they let him have surgery and try to come back?
Yeah, I think they definitely held on to Rosenthal for too long. I mean, they kept putting him in big situations despite his high ERA. And I think Sunday really was the nail in the coffin, just really a terrible outing. And what really was a big game against a first-place team in Atlanta, really crushing all the momentum they had after winning that first game on Friday night. To go out there and to lose on Saturday the way that they did with the bullpen completely melting down, I think that was enough to say, and enough is enough with the Trevor Rosenthal experiment. And, I've seen, the Nationals bullpen for the most part this year has not been good. So I think getting rid of Rosenthal will definitely help going forward. But overall, the bullpen still needs to get it together. I watched on, I think it was Friday night when Doolittle didn't pitch and Wander Suero got a save. But overall, the bullpen outside of Doolittle has been pretty shaky so far this year. But we'll see if getting rid of Rosenthal will ultimately lead to good results.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to break down the whole scenario and what went down in that game. But I'm just going to say that this goes back to my issues with Martinez and his management of the pitching and the bullpen. Now, when I break down the way he went through it and the way that I felt he should have went through it, which he had been doing before, but as you said, he inserted Rosenthal in there trying to see what he can do, which I don't have a problem with. But he stuck with him too long. And when you had, like I said, I'm not going to get into it, but I want to get into it during that game because that was a crucial game, as you mentioned, and it did slow all the momentum. You hit the nail on the head with that one. But this is continue to be an issue. Martinez, for the most part, as I said last week, I haven't really seen any issue with anything he had done. The bullpen hadn't been doing what they were supposed to do, so I really wasn't jumping down his throat for that. But that game right there still shows that he hasn't learned to stick with what works, and he wanted to try something different, and I just don't agree with it. But we'll get into that game going down. Let's go ahead and start Nats talk. The Nats are currently 37-40, third in the East. They've lost the last two. They're 6-4 in the last 10. Last week, as we mentioned, they had a crucial division matchup against the Phillies and the Braves. It was supposed to be 4 games against the Phillies, but unfortunately the first 2 games got postponed, rain delayed. They did one doubleheader that we're going to break down, and they have another one set up, I believe, for the 24th of September. That's going to be a doubleheader the next time they're here, I believe. Well, let's go ahead and break down the series against the Phillies. The first game of the doubleheader, Patrick Corbin took the mound. He went 7 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 earned run with 8 strikeouts and 3 walks. The Nats won 6-2. Let's see. It was a close, well-played game. This was a very well-played game. It was a lot of great defensive plays. Trey Turner was on display at shortstop, making play after play. And it just came down to the Nats getting some timely hitting from Brian Dozier. He hit a 2-run home run in the bottom of the 8th. and Parr hit a solo home run, making it a 6-1 game. The Phillies got a run in the top of the ninth to make it 6-2, but the Nats prevailed in that game. And the second game of the doubleheader was a masterpiece pitched by Mad Max, who had a broken nose and a black eye from the failed bunt attempt in batting practice that I know everyone already saw. And but he had a hell of an outing, going 7 innings, giving up 4 hits, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts and 2 walks. Doolittle earned his 15th save of the season, going 1 inning, giving up nothing, no hits, no walks, no strikeouts, just got him out on contact. Mad Max was dominant in this game. He was locked in. They said his 4-seam fastball, that's the hardest he's thrown it since like 2012. He had the black eye with the eye black on it that made it look even worse. And just the mad dog mentality of this dude, he just went out there and handled his business. And it was a 2-0 win for the Nationals. And all it took was a solo home run by Brian Dozier in the second, and a solo home run by Robles in the bottom of the eighth to make it 2-0. And this was against Arrieta, I believe. This was a very, very good game to watch if you watched it. It was a pitching duel going back and forth, and I hope you saw it because it was damn sure a good game. Brian, I know you said you had a chance to check out the Mad Max game. What did you think about that sweep of the doubleheader for the against the Phillies, which was a crucial matchup?
Yeah, this was a good sweep of the doubleheader for the Nationals. The Phillies are really struggling right now, and it continued into the rest of the series and after the series as well. For the Phillies, things are not going so great for them. The real game that I watched was the Max Scherzer game, the night game in this doubleheader. Really incredible effort by Scherzer. 7 innings pitched with 10 strikeouts, another 10 strikeout game for him. After the bunting, after bunting into his face and coming out of it with a black eye, and a broken nose too. Just really impressive stuff from Scherzer. Everybody, that I talked to was so surprised that he was able to pitch the next day. And I was really stunned that Scherzer was even able to go the next day. And it was really, really an incredible effort by Scherzer. I don't think he should have been practicing bunting at all. I don't think there should be pitchers hitting at all, but that's for another day. This was an incredible effort by Scherzer, and a good doubleheader sweep by the Nationals.
Keep that DH over in the AL, man. We don't want that over here. We love it. We love the pitchers hitting in the NL. You get a broken nose. They're baseball players. Scherzer is a baseball player. He's not just a pitcher. He's a baseball player that just happens to be a pitcher, Brian. That's all. Paul, what did you take away from this sweep of the doubleheader?
Hey, I'm just happy to see him kick the Phillies' ass. Philly fans was riding high and mighty earlier this year when they just assumed that the season was going to be a cakewalk with that, McCutcheon signing and the Harper signing, and now they've kind of been brought back down to reality about how long a baseball season is. And one thing about Philly fans, they haven't had long stretches without a team like us Washington area fans, right? So they should know better, but they were really, really, really riding high early in the year. I got a lot of family in Philly, a lot of friends from Philly. They talking like how they were when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I'm like, okay, it's only May, it's only June, so things kind of level off, man. And so I was happy to see him pull those wins out, and I was happy to see Mad Max. Like you said, man, that dude is a baseball player, man. That dude is like, I got a black eye, broke nose, whatever. I don't care. I'm still gonna go out on that, man. That thing was jiggling. I kept seeing it in slow motion. Every time he cocked back on the pitch, that thing would start to jiggling and shaking. It was strange looking, but you can't. You definitely can't sleep on Mad Max, man. So I was happy to see that sweep. I don't like the Phillies, but I hate the Braves more. My hatred for the Braves is almost at Cowboys level. It may actually be Cowboys level because I like baseball the best anyway. So I was just happy to see him pull that thing off, man. One thing that I do like about the team, even though it's not as consistent as we'd like, even though the last month or so they've actually been playing some pretty good baseball overall. They can win those grind out games. They can also win those high-scoring games, and they also can put up a lot of runs and shut you down like they did the Dodgers a few weeks ago. As things, hopefully, they can continue moving in the right direction, I think that's going to be a big, big, big influencer on what they do at the trade deadline. I'm expecting them, and I've been saying this all year, I'm expecting Defoe and Taylor to be moved. If they continue to show how strong, that they have something in the tank and continue to climb up in the ranks in the NL East, if they see something there, they may make a trade, man, get a couple arms in here, rent a veteran maybe like they do usually this time of year, and hopefully, and I will say this, Carl, one thing about Martinez, I would be interested to find out if that was Martinez wanting him in versus Mike Rizzo pressuring him to keep trotting him out there. Because Rizzo held on to that guy for a long time. And I like Mike Rizzo. But I would be, one thing about the Nats, they tend to, keep their cards close to their chest. It would be interesting to find out if that was a Martinez thing or a Rizzo thing, or if they both agreed that he should keep on getting more shots. Because I can't see Martinez putting himself even further on the hot seat, trotting Rosenthal out after this catastrophic season he's had so far.
I don't know, that $7 million was looming, so they wanted to know what they had to do. So I really don't care who the blame goes to. The fact that he was out there and he shouldn't have been, and we've said that all season. I mean, you try to get a guy in the game and, see what he can do, but he has shown you what he was. His ERA was 22. He had, 22 walks and 6 innings of work. No, 12 walks and 6 innings of work. Come on. But getting back to the Phillies, they had an interesting conversation on MLB Network saying about how, like you mentioned, the Nats are, have been together for a while and they have chemistry and know how to lean on each other. But the Phillies have been basically, put together through free agency the last couple of years. And now that they're going through this rough patch, they don't know who the leader is that'll stand up and, get this team together, because you have so many superstars and superstar personalities, who's going to right the ship. So that's something that's definitely going to be interesting to watch. And then we'll talk about the Game 3, which even though it should have been 4 games, but the final game of the series with the Nats going for the sweep. They were successful in that. They won the game 7-4. Eric Fetty started the game. He lasted only 3 2/3, but he only gave up 2 runs. And the bullpen did a quality job of keeping Philly, off the board. Like we mentioned, they're having their issues. I know everyone is watching how Bryce is having a, little slump right now. So I know the Nashville fans are keeping an eye on that. But he kept the Nats in the game, and Javi Guerra earned his first victory in the majors. He went an inning, giving up no hits, no earned runs with 2 strikeouts and no walks. Doolittle earned the save, going 1 inning with no hits, no earned runs, and a strikeout. That's his 16th save of the season. Let's see. It was a close game. It was a final score of 7-4, but the Nats' power came through once again. They hit 3 home runs as a team. Kurt Suzuki had a 2-run home run. Anthony Rendon had a solo shot, and Robles had a 3-run home run in this game. And you were mentioning Michael Taylor being trade bait. I don't know if you saw last week. I didn't get to see what happened, but Robles, he actually left the game that they were up 8-4. Not sure if it was exhausting or whatever. He was just in the outfield and just went down to one knee, and then he sat down out there. They came and checked on him and took him out the game. So not knowing how, what's going on with him right now, we don't know if Taylor can be expendable, because he came in that game and played well, even though they still lost. And when he's got in the game lately, he's produced. So we can see. We know he had, Defoe's been sent down, so no telling what he's doing. But I definitely think that he might be on his way out if they can use him as a piece to trade. But with the 3-game sweep of the Phillies, which was timely and was hopefully giving them momentum to go in the Atlanta series, with them being behind 7.5 games. Let's go ahead and get into the Atlanta series. We're running a little late on the Nats talk. We got a little deeper in some stuff than we wanted to. Going to Atlanta, they won the first game of the series 4-3 behind Strasburg. He's now 8-4. He went 6 innings, giving up 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, and 3 walks. As Brian mentioned earlier, Wander Swirl got the save. He went 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, an earned run, with a strikeout and a walk. That was his first career save. Started off kind of rocky for Strauss. He gave up 3 runs in the first 3 innings, but in the bottom of the 4th, the Nats tied the game. They willed themselves to 3 runs behind the RBI triple by Robles, sacrifice bunt by Michael Taylor, and Yan Gomes hit a solo home run to tie the game. And then in the bottom of the 5th, Rendon got an infield RBI single, making it 4-3. And the bullpen did a great job. And ironically, Trevor Rosenthal came in that game and pitched to 2 batters and looked pretty good. Looked pretty good that game. But then we go to the next game. Now, I'm not even going to get into all of the scoring or whatever. I'm gonna go ahead and give you this scenario. Nats are up 8-4, going into the top of the 8th. No, the top of the 7th. He brings in Rosenthal when he had Tanner Rainey, who has been pitching very well the last 2 weeks. He's a young kid. In my opinion, he should have brought in Rainey first, and if Rainey got in trouble, then brought in Rosenthal to see what he can do. For multiple reasons, because the young kid hasn't been in a position to bail out someone if they, went astray or whatever. Then you're putting pressure on him that he might not be ready for, which might adversely affect him going down the road. Now, you bring this man in and to see what he has. Now, he walks the bases loaded and doesn't get 1 out. Now, after the second walk, I think it was time to bring somebody else in. But you wait till that man walks the bases loaded in an 8-4 game and then bring in a young pitcher that hasn't been in that situation before and put the pressure on him. And then, unfortunately, he falters and it ends up a tie game. Then the next inning, they get another run to take the lead. Luckily, the Nats were able to tie it back up. And then in the 9th inning, they explode for 4 more runs because after that debacle in the 7th inning, that gave Atlanta the momentum. The Nats had the momentum in that game, run over from game 1. But that bad decision by Davey Martinez, or as Paul mentioned, maybe Mike Rizzo to see what Rosenthal had, I don't know who to put the blame on. But that man shouldn't have been out there. The fact that he pitched the night before and he's just coming back, I would have set him, I wouldn't even have had him pitch the next game. Just because you don't know what you're going to get out of him. But he made that decision in a crucial game in the NL East, as you mentioned, against the division leader. They were 1 game under 500 at that point, trying to get to 500. That would have been a crucial game. That would have been a huge, hurdle for the team to look at when they were 12 games under 500 not 3 weeks ago. And you just basically shot your team in the foot. Brian, I know you said you didn't get a chance to see it, but as I described it, it's pretty much how it went. Do you feel like he should have went with Rosenthal, or he should have went with a younger guy, or you think he was doing it for the matchups, or what do you think? I know you're a true baseball guy.
Yeah, I don't know what their fascination with Rosenthal was this whole season. Like I said earlier, the way they kept trotting him out there with the higher ERA, I would have gone with the younger guy. I think that would have been a safer decision, even though the Nats bullpen overall has struggled in this game, or has struggled this season. I still think that probably would have been the right move to avoid Rosenthal in that situation. Really just a terrible night for the Nationals. I mean, that could be, you mentioned it, Carol, they were so close to getting to 500, and with the way the season has been going so far, that could be like almost a demoralizing loss for the team, the way it ended up going for the Nationals in this one.
Yeah, 13-9 when you were up 8-4 in the 7th. That's just horrible. Paul, did you see that debacle live, or you just caught the post game after it happened? Because I actually sat through that and watched it happen, and it sucked the whole time.
I got a philosophy with this team, man. This goes back to even in their more consistent bullpen days when the bullpen was good. The thing about me and this squad is that it's always deeper than the numbers. Their numbers always show that they were good, but at the same time, the bullpen is with this team. Even back in good years, has a history of sometimes collapsing. I remember one year against the Braves, it was like 9-1, and then they came back in a couple innings and took the lead and won. So with this, I have a philosophy. When the Nats get up around 7th, 8th inning, and they start bringing in their bullpen, and they're up by a few runs, I usually stop watching. I say, okay, when I stop, if I don't watch, the bullpen won't blow the lead. I don't know why I think that, right? I think the same thing about the Redskins. I'll turn it off. Well, that policy didn't work this time. So when I ended up seeing this policy, I was like,
sorry to cut you off, Paul. I just got some breaking news that just came across my phone for the Nats. Fernando Rodney will be called up, and he will be active for Tuesday's game. Yeah, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the Nats picked him up on a minor league deal. I just got that breaking news, just came across my phone as I'm going Facebook Live, and I said that he will be with the team active and in the bullpen on Tuesday. Breaking news as we're going live.
They can use all the help in that pen they can get. I didn't watch it. I saw the early part of the game when they had the lead, but I stopped watching once the bullpen came in because I don't like to watch after the start and leave the game with this squad because they've had a history of some epic meltdowns, and not every team has. Anybody that says their bullpen has never blown leads is lying. But at the same time, this season has been exceptional. So I didn't see him come back. Thankfully, I didn't. But I saw that score, and I was like, well, and I found out Rosenthal was the one. And I'm sorry. This is like the Bash Rosenthal fest, and I'm gonna keep on piling on. I just don't think that dude should have ever been brought back after earlier this season, after the stint, with the injury and all this and that. And, I just think that they tried so hard to make this thing fit. And it just wasn't going to fit. And I'm not going to say he's a bad player. I mean, this is only is this his first or what? Bits of the first and a half season back from Tommy John. He's probably still trying to regain some things, relearn some things, get better command, even though he looked good in spring training. So, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know if he has the yips, as we call it in golf, but I wouldn't have put that man back in. And like you said, Carl, your tweet, maybe you should have sent that tweet out 2 or 3 weeks earlier because maybe we could have got him out of there about 2 or 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah, man, if I could turn back the hands of time, man, we could have avoided that from 8-4 victory to a 13-9 loss. That still sucks. Like you said, it was the game was in hand, and then one thing, and then boom, it was over. And then to wrap up the.
Am I correct? But was it the first time the Braves beat the Nationals this season?
No, they played them. So I think when they were in Atlanta, I think they won one of those, I believe. I think the Nats were 2 out of 3. And I think when they came here, I think the Braves won 2 out of 3 here. They exchanged that on the home field. So they've been all tight games, but that one hurt the worst. And as I mentioned, that Atlanta had the momentum, after coming back, they carried that over to Sunday, where they defeated the Nats 4-3. I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I saw the box score. It was an extra inning game. The Braves got a pinch hit home run by Camargo that tied the game up and eventually gave them the lead. And the Nats, they gave them a 2-run lead. The Nats were able to get 1 run back in the bottom of the 10th. And Rendon was, I believe, trying to score, and he got called out at the plate. Game over. Braves won 4-3. As I mentioned, the Nats went 4-2. They're 37-40, 3 games under 500. They have a 6-game road trip upcoming against 2 teams that they should be able to go 4-2 or better against. They go to Miami for a 3-game set starting tomorrow. All of them 7-10 starts, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then they have go to Detroit for Friday for a 7-10 start, Saturday a 4-10 start, and Sunday a 1-10 start. Brian, what about these 2 teams the Nats are about to face? How do you think they're going to fare next week? Did you lose Brian? Nope, still on the board. You there, Brian? All right, we'll go to Paul and see if we can get Brian. Oh, there you go. You muted yourself up. There go the Robbie moment of the week. We always have one.
Yeah. But I was saying that, I think this has potential to be a really good week for the Nationals. Detroit and Miami are 2 last-place teams. They're not good. So need every win you can get in this chance. I think the Nationals have a chance to get over 500 this week if everything goes their way. I think it'll start off well. I think, starting off with Scherzer on Tuesday night will be a good start to what should be a pretty successful road trip for the Nationals before they come back ahead of the fourth.
No doubt. Paul, what do you think about the 6-game road trip? Will the Nats be able to get above 500? They're 3 games under 500 right now. Will the Nats be above 500 when they come off of this road trip?
One thing I don't do is sleep on the Marlins, but I gotta say, I think they'll be above 500. And also, man, not even just the next few. I mean, the next couple of weeks. I mean, they have a lot of opportunities against some really struggling squads. I mean, you got 2 games with the Orioles, you got the Phillies again, you got the Royals, you got the Marlins coming up, you got the Tigers. So they got a golden opportunity here. So I think this stretch is going to be probably the most important stretch of the season. I think this is going to tell us exactly what we can expect from now going out, depending on these next couple of series coming up.
No doubt, no doubt. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with the All-Star break coming up, trade deadline coming up. Brian, we spoke about your boy Cashman talking about he's willing to give up anything to get Mad Max, which I still don't think is ever going to happen, and I hope it never does happen.
Well, I strongly disagree with you. I hope it very much does happen, Carol. I would do it, and I hope he does everything he can to get Scherzer on the Yankees, because the one thing the Yankees desperately need right now is an ace starting pitcher, and if the Nationals are going to keep hovering around 500 or below 500, they might as well listen to whatever offer the Yankees have at them. The Yankees have one of the best farm systems in baseball, so I would listen to any offer the Yankees have.
Man, you can't give up the Bulldog, man. I'm sorry, you can't. Him going out there this past week with the broken nose and the black eye says it all, man. He's the face of the franchise, man. You can't trade away the face of the franchise. And then, Strasburg is learning out of them. Strasburg 8-4 right now, quietly having a good first half, under the radar, because Mad Max out there, mowing down 10 people a game or more, leading the league in that category also.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Bulldogs. Shouldn't somebody like that be pitching in the playoffs? I'm just saying, Carol.
Hey, man. Hey, it's still a long season, man. The Nats can make a run at the wild card, man. It's not out of reach for the Nats. They hovering around 500. It's still early. We're not even at the halfway point, so it's still time. It's still time. You know me, I'm always optimistic until it's time to throw in the towel when it's realistically out of reach. Right now, anything's possible with baseball. We see the Phillies going through a little slump. The Braves, they're young. You never know what might happen. They might go through a slump, and the Nats can, get some games in hand under these, next couple of weeks of lesser opponents, and next thing you know, it could be a, 2-3 game lead, and the Nats right on their heels. You never know.
Yeah, man. I'm not going to count out the Nationals at all, like you said. As long as there's that second wild card, you can never really count them out of it. So maybe they'll, I would love to have Scherzer on the team, but I think they'd have to really fall out of it for them to. All kidding aside, I think they'd have to really fall out of it to seriously contend or seriously consider trading the best pitcher they've ever had. But you never know. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But let's go ahead and switch gears. We didn't. Before we switch gears, let's get you on and talk. Let's go ahead and talk about your Yankees since we mentioned their farm system. What's going on in the AL with all of those DHs and such?
Well, in the AL, right now the team with the best record is actually the Minnesota Twins. They're the first team in the AL to 50 wins. So this is kind of a surprise. They actually have an 8-game lead on the Cleveland Indians in their division. They're cruising right now to the AL Central title. Yankees are on fire as well. They're 8-2 in their last 10. We just completed a great homestand where we swept Tampa Bay. Took 3 out of 4 against the Astros. Have a 4.5-game lead on Tampa Bay right now, and 8-game lead on the Red Sox, and a 9-game lead in Los Angeles, which is just beautiful to see. I love it. Give me more of that, please. And then Houston, kind of struggling a little bit. They did, like I said, they lost 3 out of 4 to the Yanks, but they have a 6.5-game lead in the AL West, so they're probably cruising through the AL West title as well. Should be a great summer. I'm really excited about how the Yankees are playing. They're on fire. They're losing tonight so far, down 2-0. But overall, very excited with how the team's playing, and looking forward to successful rest of the season. And this weekend they'll be playing in London against the Red Sox. So I'm also looking forward to that. 2 games against the Red Sox in London. It's going to be interesting, a little weird, but I'm still excited for it.
All right, appreciate that MLB AL wrap up. Let's about to switch gears. We got some folks. Cameron, he was asking about Wizards coverage, which is perfect timing because we got the Wizards Roundtable online. I just see I'm about to bring them on, and I'm gonna let you guys chop it up and talk about the Wizards draft and what's going on and let the folks talk. I see we got Arun, and who is that? We got Tim on the line in Arun. What's going on, Arun?
Not much, just chilling after the NBA season's been over.
Yeah, I see you be relaxing on your Instagram, chilling with the cat, hitting vacation spots and everything. So, yeah, you enjoying your off season. Is this Tim on the other line we got also on the line?
Yeah. How are you, Carol? How's it going?
I'm doing all right. So, I'm not really a big NBA guy. I know they drafted the first Japanese player. He's a power forward, and that's about all I know. So, Brian, I'll let you go ahead and lead the roundtable and talk about the Wizards draft. And if any questions come up on the Facebook Live feed, I'll hit y'all and let you know.
All right, sounds good. So, I think this pick's been a little polarizing. I think you guys would agree with me by the Wizards. Some people think it's a great pick, kind of under the radar. Chauncey Billups compared him to Kawhi Leonard, which I think had a lot of people excited, obviously. But, there's some people are saying this is a terrible pick for the Wizards and kind of a reach. I know that they didn't interview him or meet with him before the draft. I think this is a fine pick for the Wizards. I think it's a safe pick. What do you guys think?
I think it was a safe pick as well because I think I heard a lot of chatter that people were mad the Wizards didn't take Cam Reddish out of Duke because he was available. But I think this guy, he's got a huge wingspan. He's going to be ready to play right away as a sub. So I think it's more of a safe pick, a guy that you can develop. It's not a Jan Vesely where, it's either a complete strikeout on 3 pitches or a grand slam. And, obviously we got the strikeout. So I think it'll be solid. I don't know if this is a future Hall of Famer, though. So I'm happy with it overall.
Yeah,
go ahead, Arun.
Yeah, I'm playing the wait and see approach. Chauncey Billups compared him to Kawhi Leonard, but his biggest weakness on ESPN they listed was his defense. He also compared DeAndre Hunter to Jay Crowder, who was the number 5 pick, so not really giving high. I think it was a pretty random analogies he was giving, and there's some people that were saying that he was the second best player on Gonzaga. I'm not sure about that, given that he's the year 21. I agree that it was probably a good decision to pass on Cam Reddish. I was thinking that maybe they could draft Nico Boya, who's their second choice according to David Aldridge, but overall, it's just people shouldn't get that angry or that happy. I think they'll be okay, but I agree with Tim. He's probably not going to be an all-star. Don't really like that he's modeling his game after Carmelo Anthony, but maybe they can change his habits, extending the 3-point range in the future.
Yeah, I've heard some Antoine Jamison comparisons too, which would be good because he's not probably a 3-point shooter at least right now.
Well, I got a comment on the Facebook Live feed. Cameron said it was an awesome pick. Said he was the leading scorer on Gonzaga, a 27 guy, and he said he has an excellent mid-range shooter.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's Jamison right there.
True.
Yeah, that's one perfect comparison. I think that's probably the ideal comparison, and not somebody like Kawhi Leonard, who, it's exciting to hear him get compared to Kawhi, but Kawhi is the greatest. Right now, one of the best players on planet Earth, and I don't know. I just think that's a little bit of a strong comparison. And you mentioned that he struggles on defense too. Kawhi's great on defense, so Antoine seems like a fair comparison overall. So let's talk. I want to talk draft grades. What would you give this pick overall? I know it's tough to tell right now, but initial reactions. What are you guys thinking for draft grades?
Right now, I'd give like a B- for this draft pick, and probably just a B+ just a B for getting another second round pick. It seems pretty good, but it is a second round pick, so I'd give it B-.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I guess we also got Jonathan Simmons, right, who will probably be like end of the bench guy, not really have any impact this year. But, the Wizards need to fill like 8 spots, so it's probably good.
True. Yeah, the way I see it is, and no offense, guys, but I don't have much room to talk as a Knicks fan, but I think the Wizards are probably going to struggle no matter who they drafted this year, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding season, for the Wizards with no John Wall. So whoever they drafted, they're going to have to develop anyway. It's probably going to take a little bit of time. So
I think if they got Zion, they would have been okay.
Well, yeah, if they got Zion, they would.
Now we talking about a wing and a prayer now, man. We talking about a wing and a prayer. But Cameron has a couple more comments. He said he agrees he see more Antoine Jameson in him, but he'll be a better defender. He said he's seen him lock up R.J. Barrett. I don't know who that is. He gives the grade a B. Say that again.
R.J. Barrett,
The Knicks draft pick.
Oh, that's the Knicks draft pick. Uh-oh. So they're going to have some battles, I guess. He said Admiral Schofield was a good pick as well. Another solid defender, 3 and D guy, Jonathan Simmons. And he said Schofield gets buckets and has a don't quit, don't die attitude.
I love Schofield in the NCAA tournament. He was at Tennessee, I'm pretty sure. And he had a great tournament. He's a tough kid. I think he's going to be a good backup guard in the NBA. But I don't know, if he'll ever be our future point guard replacing John Wall, which the Wizards really need next year because I guess there's no point guard right now on the roster technically. So he's probably going to play.
Admiral Schofield's like 6'5", and he's like a power forward, and he actually shoots better from 3 than Rui Hachimura. He shoots like 40+% from 3 with more attempts, and gets more rebounds than Hachimura, but he's only 6'5", and he's a couple of years older. But his parents are from the military. I guess why it's called Admiral, I guess, and he has a lot of discipline, and I don't know, he played pretty well in a loss to Purdue, unlike Villanova. I believe they went to OT against Purdue, and I think there's a foul last second on a 3-pointer in that game that sent it to overtime. But Schofield looks like a good defender. He doesn't really have much handles, so he'll have to transition to probably the 3 or be like a PJ Tucker, 6'5", power forward.
Cameron said he was a 4-year senior. Tommy Shepard went with experience. Said Troy Brown can play point. Said they picked up Corey Davis Jr., undrafted rookie from Houston.
Yeah, and they also signed somebody, I believe, from Virginia Tech, too, to a 3-year deal. So they picked up 2 point guards, including the guy from Houston. And Houston was undefeated for a large portion of the season. And I guess they lost. They didn't make it to the Final Four, but they made a deep run, and they lost. But I guess they're trying out anybody. They haven't re-signed Satoransky yet. So, yeah, I agree with Tim that the big problem without John Wall is they don't really have that many point guards on the roster. If they don't re-sign Satoransky, maybe they get re-sign Jason Randall, and maybe one of these 2 rookie point guards who are undrafted will pan out.
Well, I got a quick question for the round. I got a quick question for the round table. My fault to cut you off, Brian. Since we're talking draft, how hard is it for this team to draft players with no GM in place? What does that mean for the team if you have no one calling the shots and making these? Who's making these decisions to draft these people if you don't have a GM? And how do you think that's going to affect this team until they name someone GM?
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I'll go quick. I was just going to say, I think it probably is going to hurt them in free agency a lot more than the draft because they still have employees in place that do all the scouting and write all the reports and different player profiles even a couple of years in advance. So I think they had a pretty good plan going into the draft, but for free agency, I mean, who would want to sign with the Wizards right now? Like, you know, you don't even know who you're going to be working for. The present's pretty bad. The past is pretty bad. The future might be the worst of the three. So, you know, I don't know. As a free agent, unless no one else is trying to sign you, you know, it's not the most attractive destination except for playing time. So I think that's really all they can offer right now. They can't offer money or stability.
Arun, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like going to be tough for them to sign any other outside free agents. But I think the bigger thing is we'll find out. I think I'm not sure. Tommy Shepard, I guess, is the acting general manager. If he gets used on audition for the job, and let's see like how he manages contracts. Ernie Grunfeld tended to overpay, re-sign players like Andre Blatch, and even, I don't know, Cortat's contract was looking kind of bad towards the end. Let's see if he, gives reasonable contracts to Sadaransky or Jabari Parker, Bobby Portis, because they only have $31 million to give before they're over the luxury tax. And this team isn't really, I don't even think they should go over the luxury tax, because I don't think they're necessarily, they might be in rebuild mode if Bradley Beal wants out, if he doesn't agree to an extension. So they're kind of in flux with the GM. He doesn't even know if he's going to be there long term, and the roster, so they shouldn't really be trying to spend too much money and wait till next year when Jan Mahimi and Dwight Howard are off the books, and hopefully that'll make them more financially stable.
Just the facts that you, like you said, you're waiting for them to get off the books. Let you know how bad Grunfeld was. We got some more comments on the Facebook Live feed. He was asking about, Tommy Shepard, which you had just talked about. I didn't even know who that was, so appreciate that insight. He said he's earning respect from the fans. He said Jabari Parker will be back on a more reasonable deal. Said Bobby Portis might end up going to Utah, and he feel they will get Thomas Bryant. And he said he wouldn't re-sign Ariza or Green. And Antron says Tommy will be the guy at GM. What do y'all say about that? Brian, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it signing Ariza or Green anyway when you've got more important priorities as well. I think getting Bryant back will be key because Bryant was really excellent last season. I talked to Mike about this a lot, actually, and Bryant was arguably one of the best players on the Wizards last season other than Bradley Beal. And so bringing him back will be, I think, ultimately a key move. And, I think Bobby Portis played himself into a nice contract. He played really well with the Wizards. I think Jabari Parker did too. So if the Wizards could re-sign Jabari Parker to a team-friendly deal, that'd be good for the Wizards as well. But I think, Portis leaving, I think you'll get a good contract from another team. And so, overall, I can't really, judge the new GM, the interim candidate, too much because, he's only had the job for a little while. But overall, I think I like the draft pick. I think the draft pick's fine. And it'll be interesting to see how free agency goes. I wouldn't spend a ton of money this offseason either, just considering that a lot of the marquee free agents probably don't want to play in D.C. for whatever reason. And there probably is only so much money they can actually spend. So I would focus on trying to bring back those guys. I think Sadaransky is the big question overall as to whether he's going to come back or not. He might get a lot of money on the free agent market if certain big name teams strike out. But, I think it all remains to be seen.
Good. Rune, what do you say?
The Wizards only have, I believe, 6 players under contract, and I agree probably with the timelines of the team. They might not re-sign Ariza or Jeff Green, but they did talk about Trevor Ariza being kept long-term, and then they threw him into the front office kind of position, probably not the GM, but some kind of executive down the line. And he would be a good veteran with this club because, I don't know, they've been having some locker room issues with John Wall, and John Wall does respect Ariza, and he does play defense, but he might be too expensive to keep. I don't I think if Utah's going after Bobby Portis, which they reported a couple of days ago, I don't think he's worth keeping around for a big chunk of your salary cap. Thomas Bryant would be worth keeping around if it's an affordable deal, but as the center position is becoming more and more like we're not like the Wizards already are spending $21 million due to Jan Mahimi and Dwight Howard. Maybe Dwight Howard will actually stay healthy. I think he was actually healthy at the end of the year, but they were trying to tank some games. And Satoransky and Bryant are the highest priorities, but I wouldn't break the bank. I wouldn't pay like $14 million per year to keep each of them, but if it's like an affordable deal, then they're worth keeping around with the young core. That even Satoransky's 28, but he's a good backcourt mate to Bradley Beal, and they do need a point guard alongside him.
True that. Tim, what about you?
I think I agree with the panel. I mean, basically, I think Parker and Satoransky should be the priorities. Like, I get Ariza is probably a great guy, great leader, and he gets along with Wall, which is apparently hard to do. So I get wanting to keep him, but it was really odd to me that they even traded for him last year. I mean, that was such a short-term move to me to get rid of, I forget the guy's name. What was the guy we traded to?
Kelly Oubre and Austin Rivers.
No, I mean, Austin Rivers is fine. I don't care about that, but just to me, last year the Wizards had two players who were arguably young and on the up and up, and it was Oubre and Bryant Jr., and they may lose both of them. So, I just don't get, like, putting money into Ariza so that he can, be Tommy Shepard's, like, coffee boy or whatever later on when, you should be, like, trying to keep these young guys. But we also need a point guard, so just like right now, it's really hard to go into the season with nobody with NBA experience at the point. So I think that's what I would do.
Sounds good. Appreciate that great insight. I guess I'll wrap it up with one final question, since we know John Wall, as you mentioned earlier, wasn't going to pretty much probably won't play next season at all. He's gotten $35 million against the books. Next year, I believe, is $43 million. And we talked about the GM situation and trying to re-sign players. If this is an official rebuild, what other, say, I know there's still, if Bradley Beal makes the NBA, all-NBA team, he qualifies for the Supermax. Would you, one of you guys, I'm going to go to each one of you, would you trade Bradley Beal now and try to see what's what and get what you can get for him, since he's, coming off his, pretty much one of his best seasons? Or would you, ride it out and see what you can do? Brian, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I think the Wizards should build around Bradley Beal. You need a franchise player to have any chance of success. Even you need multiple franchise players at this point to have any success in the NBA. So to build around Bradley Beal, I think would be the smart move. I'd love to have Bradley Beal on the Knicks, but we don't really have much to trade. So I think you'll end up keeping Bradley Beal. I think he likes being in DC, so I think he wants to stay and be a Wizard. So I think building around Bradley Beal would ultimately be a smart move going forward, especially with John Wall kind of in the back nine at this point. Coming off, he's going to be out for this whole season, and this will be Bradley Beal's time to shine. I think he will make an All-NBA team this season. I think building around Bradley Beal would be a smart move right now, at least.
Arun, what do you say? Tim, go ahead. You, Tim, then I go to Arun.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
My bad. I agree with Brian. I mean, you gotta be competitive this year. I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs, but you gotta sell some seats. You gotta have some hope. And I think Beal wants to play for the Wizards. He loves DC. I think ultimately, though, Beal and Wall can't coexist, and part of the reason Beal's happy is he knows it's his team now, and probably when Wall's healthy, they're just going to try to shop him to another team. So I think, Beal probably, it sounds bad to say, but he may actually kind of be happy with the situation the team is in now compared to a year ago, even though the future looks much less bright. So I would keep him for a year and then trade him if, you know, you get the world for him, but put a really high price tag on him. Because, I mean, that's really the biggest chip they have right now.
All right, everyone, I go to you, and we got a couple more comments on the feed, and we're going to switch gears to women's soccer so we can get to our soccer talk. I know Brian anxious to talk about the women's team. Go ahead, and with you, Arun.
Yeah, I believe the Wizards have offered Beal an extension 3 years, $111 million. That's not the supermax. It's slightly less. So the Wizards are banking on him making an All-NBA team next year. If he makes an All-NBA team next year, then he'll qualify the supermax, and that'll be even more money. And I'm also thinking if Beal turns down the suspension, maybe Washington doesn't think Beal's going to stick around long term. But overall, I kind of agree that they should hold on to Bradley Beal unless they get like an Anthony Davis kind of offer, some team offering crazy amount of picks or some protection or stuff like that. Like they can leverage that. But as of last year, Beal was probably one of the best 6 guards to close out the season. He probably deserved to make an All-NBA team. It's just that the Wizards decided to tank towards the end of the year. Not many people were paying attention to DC sports. They watched Kemba Walker a lot explode early in the first half of the season, but they didn't notice that his team also missed the playoffs, and Beal's a little bit bigger. He shoots the 3 very well, and that's actually what he can improve upon going forward is raising that 3-point percentage up. But he's improved his all-around game, attacking the basket, getting to the free throw line. He actually played in NBA history for a single season. He has the record for most possessions ever played because the pace of increasing so fast, and that's good for Beal because he's staying healthy, being an injury-prone player. So he's worth keeping around unless he wants out, and even then they can hold on to him like they did closer to the draft next year, and to get a super high draft pick package like the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis.
All right, sounds good. Let me get to these last few comments that was left. Cameron was talking about Dwight Howard, said that he supposedly re-injured himself running sprints. So I never agreed with the Dwight Howard experiment. That's kind of like the Trevor Rosenthal, go ahead and cut that dead weight. He said that, let's see, he said, what about the 80% insurance on the player that doesn't play at least 30 games? And he was saying that Bill feels that he's the true leader of the team, not John Wall. That's why he feels like they can't coexist. Robbie just jumped on and said he agrees with your guys' take on Cameron. He just don't know how they can move Wall at this point with his contract, which I totally agree about. But what do you guys think about that with the 80%? I don't even know about that with the 80% and 30 games played, and we'll end our Wizards talk on that note. Arun, I'll go to you first. I know you probably know exactly what he's talking about.
Actually, I don't really. I think if the team gets the money back, but I don't think that creates any salary cap space. That's they would still probably have pushed the luxury tax anyway. So I don't think it's I guess they're saving money, but it's not really going to help them go after anybody in free agency, and you can't really anticipate. I guess he re-injured himself, but I don't think he'll probably potentially be back at the beginning of the season. But I would rather have Thomas Bryant than Dwight Howard at this point. But since we're already paying Dwight Howard, that's like a sunk cost, and I wouldn't mind benching Dwight Howard if that minimum game thing doesn't happen. But I think that Dwight, I guess we have to hope maybe Dwight actually gets healthy, and they can trade him for a second rounder or something. But yeah, I'm also really disappointed that Dwight hasn't been healthy. It was definitely not a good contract to give him a player option.
All right, Tim, what do you say about that? The 80% on 30 games played or whatever. That the NBA got a lot of rules, especially with all this money they're making. So I know it's a lot of intricate loopholes and fine print in these contracts.
Yeah, I mean, they have all these weird performance bonuses where if they play a certain amount of games or minutes or get points, and so sometimes they get benched so they don't have to pay them. But I mean, it was just a fail. You're right, it was a failed experiment. I mean, we all knew it. What was it, 2 weeks after he signed, he injured his butt cheek or something? It was literally the worst dumbest injury you could think of. I've never heard of an injury. I think Chris Webber had something stupid like that, like he pulled his hamstring taking off his warm-up pants or something when he was on the Bullets. But like since then, I mean, can you remember like a worse, sillier injury? He didn't even play a game.
I don't want to. Oh man, yeah, I didn't. It was a horrible move. I thought as soon as they signed him.
I mean, he switches teams every year. I mean, he's really talented. I remember the Superman days when he was on the Magic and made it to the finals. But it's not a center's league, and if you're getting traded every year but still putting up numbers, like you're probably hard to work with. So, you know, it's more than just talent right now. He's got problems.
No doubt. Brian, what do you say?
Yeah, Dwight Howard was a mistake from the beginning, and now if it's going to cost them from signing Thomas Bryant, then that's just a huge mistake on Ernie Brunfeld's part. You know, I actually thought Dwight Howard signing, when it originally happened, it could have gone either way. Like, you know, he played well for Charlotte his last season with them, and I knew he was injury prone, but I kind of had a feeling that, like, if he could click with Beal and Wall, things could actually work out pretty well for Dwight Howard in DC. That obviously ended up not happening. He had the butt injury, as Tim called it. And, you know, it's just been downhill ever since. And now he's just dead weight on the team. And, you know, I guess it's going to – I hope it doesn't prevent them from re-signing Bryant. But it could just be, too many centers on the roster. If Howard is going to come back healthy and you've already got Mahimi, it just goes to show you how much of a terrible contract this was when they could lose a young player who's getting better like Thomas Bryant because of it. So that's how I feel about the Dwight Mayer.
All right, well, I totally understand and agree that statement. But I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time out to break down the Wizards draft. We're going to move on to women's soccer. I know Brian is anxious to talk about the U.S. team. But Rune and Tim, I appreciate y'all taking the time out. Y'all have a good night, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks for having me on. 76 days of the NFL season. People are talking about RG3 76-yard runs.
Damn it, Rune. All right, Rune. I'm glad you're counting down. Football season right around the corner, so appreciate it. You have a good night. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Talk to you soon.
All right, later. All right, Brian, I know you have been anxiously waiting to talk about this U.S. women's team. Let's break down this. We were hoping to have EJ on the line, but unfortunately we couldn't get him on, so we'll let you talk about your wonderful soccer and what's been going on with this U.S. team.
Yeah, so the Women's World Cup is in full swing. We absolutely dominated the group stage. We wasn't even close in any of the games. First game was the big one. We beat Thailand 13-0 in utter domination. And then next game, defeated Chile 3-0. So that's 16 goals scored to 0 conceded. And then in the last game of the group stage, shut out Sweden, our big rival. Sweden is coached by the former U.S. women's national team coach. And it's always good to beat Sweden, and there's a bit of a history there, but we beat them 2-0. Go undefeated in the group stage, outscoring our opponents 18-0, utter domination, and I totally expected it to continue today against Spain, but it was actually a much closer, much better game than I could have possibly anticipated. The U.S. scored early. They got a deserved penalty, no controversy on the first penalty. That was converted by Megan Rapinoe in the 6th minute, but then just 3 minutes later, Spain equalized to make it 1-1. The first goal the U.S. had conceded up to that point in the tournament, and it stayed that way for a really long time. Spain, the U.S. put together some good chances, but then finally in the 75th minute, controversy again. A penalty was called against Spain and so the U.S. women's national team would have been shooting a penalty. But then they went to video review to check it out. Video review has been one of the biggest stories in this entire World Cup so far. It's caused a lot of controversy. We've seen it, especially with penalties. It's been kind of a dicey subject. So it was, once again, here too. It honestly, from some angles, it looked like a dive by the U.S., but from other angles, it looked like a good penalty. Eventually, they decided it was a good penalty, and it was a trip. So there's more controversy. Alex Morgan from the U.S. Women's National Team was originally going to take the penalty, but then Megan Rapinoe and her talked about it. Rapinoe took her second penalty of the game and converted her second penalty of the game to give the U.S. a 2-1 lead, which they would hold on and win, defeat Spain in their toughest, most nail-biting game of the tournament yet. It's only going to get tougher from here, Carol. They have France on Friday. It's a huge game. France is the host nation in the World Cup. This is the host nation, a team on fire like France, against arguably the best team in the world in the U.S. Women's National Team. This is going to be the match of the tournament so far. I'm going to be flying during it, so I'm going to miss it, unfortunately, but hopefully I'll get off the planes with good news that the U.S. Women's National Team is moving on to the semifinals of the Women's World Cup.
All right, sounds good, man. Sounds good. Unfortunately, you'll be on a plane, but hopefully, like you said, you landed some good news. I'll check the score for you and let you know if I hear anything. I don't even know what to look for, but I'll try to find the score, man, and see what I can do. But appreciate it as always. Let the folks know where they can find you at, and we can get ready to move on to the Mystics and talk some boxing and get ready to get up out of here.
Yeah, you can always catch me giving my sports takes. I usually give multiple sports takes a week on my Instagram account at BBRI1991. So find me there if you want the hottest sports takes. Other than that, the only thing I have to add is let's go Yankees, and have a good night. Thank you for having me on, Carol.
All right, Brian, no problem. I just saw the score. I think the Yankees are down 2-0 to Toronto right now. So just to give you a quick update before you get out of here, them damn Yankees. But appreciate you calling in, man. Thanks for the soccer breakdown. And we'll have you on next week to get the results and see where the U.S. Team is at and what's going on in the World Cup, because, I have no idea.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carol. Have a good night.
All right, you too. All right. Let's see. It's a little bit after 8. Normally we do a music break, but I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get through the rest. I know I still got Paul, the boxing guy, on the line. He's been sitting back diligently listening. What did you take away from the NBA draft talk, Paul? Do you think the Wizards are going to look better this year than they did last year, maybe even make the playoffs, or you think they're going to be in rebuild mode with all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, not having a GM?
Man, one thing about Ernie Grunfeld, he got credit for building a team, destroying it, rebuilding it, destroying it, rebuilding it, destroying it like 3 times. So I don't see next year being much of a successful year. I actually want to see him in the lottery again, and I do want to see them actually get a draft pick that they are expected to get instead of being at 9. But I'm hearing good things about the guy that they got. So let's hope he develops. There's a steal in every draft, and maybe this will be the first, the first step to a new organization, man, because Grunfeld, let's just face it, he was real stale in that position. So hopefully they can get somebody competent to replace him at some point.
Yeah, hopefully. That's all we can do is wait and see. But that's why we got the NBA Roundtable, to let us know what's going on. And since we're talking basketball, let's go ahead and switch gears to the Mystics, who, as I mentioned earlier, went 3-0 last week. They're currently 7-3 in the East. I believe they're second. They had a game on the 18th versus at LA. They won that game 81-52. They had a 30-point lead in that game at one point. They shot 42% from the field, 46% from three-point range, had 20 assists on 28 shots made, had 5 blocks as a team, and forced 26 turnovers. Christy Tolliver had 12 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals. Ariel Atkins had 22 points, 1 rebound, and a steal. And Natasha Cloud had 7 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal to help the Mystics get back on the winning side of things last week. Then they had a game against Las Vegas on the 20th. They won that game 95-72. Elena Deladon led the team with 29 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 blocks. Ariel Atkins added 19 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. And Tiana Hawkins added 15 points and 4 rebounds. The Mystics shot 53% from the field, shot 50% from three-point range, and had 22 assists on 36 shots. They only had 13 turnovers as a team, and they scored 21 points off of the 16 turnovers they forced by Las Vegas. Also, the last game of the week, which was Sunday versus Atlanta. They defeated Atlanta 85-73. They held Atlanta to only 7 points in the third quarter, so that was a crucial defensive quarter for the Mystics. I think that's the lowest amount scored against them all season in the quarter. They shot 46% from the field, 34% from three-point range. They only had 8 turnovers for the whole game, had 7 steals and 7 blocks. Lena Deladon once again led the team with 21 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Chrissy Tolliver had 17 points and 4 assists, and Tiana Hawkins added 17 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, and a block. They have 2 games this week. They play Chicago at noon on the 26th in Chicago, and then they have a game at Capital One on the 29th. I mean, not Capital One, I'm sorry, at the their new arena, which I still haven't got a chance to get to with the press conditions, but I will get there eventually. Hopefully before season is over. Versus Connecticut at 2 o'clock on the 29th. So the Mystics are doing pretty good after they had a rough week last week. They rebounded very nicely with a 3-0 week, and we'll be definitely keeping you updated on them. Then let's switch gears to the Valor before we get to our boxing coverage. If you tuned into the Sports on the Hill podcast page and my page, I was at the game live last Thursday against the Baltimore Brigade, who were 5-3. Valor were 4-4. It was a great game, back and forth. Valor took an early lead. Baltimore came back quickly off of a pick six and almost pick six in the kickoff return. Went into the fourth quarter tied up. The Baltimore played tough. They kept pace. They forced the Valor into a long field goal attempt with with a little bit over 30 seconds left. And in Arena League football, you know, just like in NFL, if you miss and the other team comes down with it, they can return it to the other, for a score. That's what Baltimore's playing, but unfortunately it took a bad bounce for them. One of the Valor players, I wrote his name down, but I can't find it. I forgot it. I did a video that I highlighted the play. We shot it right there. It was right in front of us. And he was it John Reese, that's his name, Reese. He recovered the ball and was able to dive into the end zone to make the score 42-35 with less than 15 seconds left in the game, and the Valor won, putting them at 5-4, and Baltimore 5-4, putting them in the second spot for the playoffs, and that's the most victories this team has as a AFL team, getting their 5th victory of the season. They have a game this Saturday, as I mentioned earlier, that I will definitely be at. The Atlanta City Blackjack. They'll be in town. It's a 7 p.m. start. And we'll definitely be in the building. Jay Legend might be able to come down so we can get some Jet Radio, Sports on the Hill podcast, TRU RADIO Network stuff going on. And stay tuned because they have a bye week after that. And they have one more home game, I believe, on the 20th of July. And I believe that is against Albany, who they lost to in a horrible fashion when they had a 34-7 lead and found a way to lose 56-55. But that happened. It's over. They're 5-4 in prime spot for the playoffs, looking to repeat as Arena League champions. And let's go to Paul for the boxing wrap-up before we get out of here. What's going on in the world of boxing? You told me some bare knuckle boxing stuff went on that didn't turn out too well for somebody venturing in that ring for the first time.
Yeah, man. I know if people been listening to our Thursday specials so often, you would have heard EJ talk about the bare knuckle boxing league that's around. So Paulie Malignaggi, it was rumored that he was going to jump in that ring, and I remember a few months ago we were saying, I don't think Paulie Malignaggi should do that because even though boxing is a great art and a great sport, and I love boxing, and it's to me, superior. The problem is this: the sport of boxing is not the same as the sport of bare knuckle boxing, bare knuckle fighting. Because I said back in the day, the point when you fight in MMA and bare knuckle is the cut. In boxing, is to land as many blows as you can in a knockout and not get hit. Well, you can't fight like that in bare knuckle. So Paulie Malignaggi lost a unanimous decision. I mean, granted, yeah, if you were looking at a boxing match, if you were looking for a boxing match, you might have said Paulie Malignaggi won, but this ain't boxing. So Malignaggi was pissed that he lost, and this is a lot of bad blood between this guy. This guy's one of Conor McGregor's friends, and Malignaggi has a lot of bad blood with Conor McGregor going back to their sparring sessions when McGregor was preparing for Floyd. But, Paulie Malignaggi got cut up pretty good. And, yeah, he only got hit, quote, clean, like he said, a few times. But at the same time, you're fighting bare knuckle, man. The point is to cut. So I think Paulie Malignaggi lost the fight. And the judges apparently did so too. Paulie Malignaggi didn't think he lost the fight. He in the middle of the ring, he went on to berate the judges. He called the bare knuckle league Bush League and saying that these judges, what were they looking at? It's like, Paulie, come on, dude. He's been kind of an unhinged loose cannon lately, and I don't know why. I don't know what his point is, but dude, you lost the fight. Get over it. You know what I mean? So Paulie stepped in that ring and he lost like was expected. You don't got those big boxing gloves on to sit there and glance off, blows with and roll with and to kind of protect yourself with those big gloves. It's a lot different in boxing. And I don't think Paulie Malignaggi truly appreciated that. So he said he's done, which I hope so, because I just don't think that he should have ever done it in the first place. I mean, yeah, get your money. But at the same time, I wouldn't take a risk like that at 38.
Nah, it doesn't make sense unless he broke and need the money. You know how that be.
But that's the thing, though. He has a lucrative deal. Well, no, I'm sorry. I take that back. I know HBO got rid of boxing. I don't know if Paulie Malignaggi is on Showtime now. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody out there listening, maybe I'm wrong. But he has a pretty good broadcasting and commentating career. So, I mean, I don't think he's broke unless he gets his money and immediately goes and blows it. So I would hope that's not the case. Maybe it's just he wanted to do something different. And, I mean, I give him props for that because, he could have picked a lot safer road to have pretty much an exhibition. I mean, look what Floyd did over in Japan with that guy. So, I mean, I got to give Paulie props. I mean, you stepped up to something that's kind of unknown right now, and he definitely got his face cut up pretty good. So, I mean, at minimum, even though he lost by decision, nobody can say that dude is not a warrior, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can dig it. Any other boxing news going on? Any upcoming fights?
Well, we had Jamel Charlo back in the ring. He fought against Jorge Cota. He knocked him out in round 3. Charlo lost against Tony Harrison a few months back. Charlo thinks he got robbed. He lost his super middleweight titles. I don't think he got robbed. Tony Harrison is a nice, slick fighter, slick boxer, and he definitely subtly whooped him pretty, it wasn't, I'm not going to say whooped him soundly. It was a great technical fight. He stuck to his game plan and won. So Charlo's trying to get himself back in position to have that rematch with Tony Harrison at the end of the year. And he looked pretty good in this fight. He looked lethargic against Harrison when they fought. I mean, he didn't waste any time against this guy. He knocked him out with a crazy left hook. And Guillermo Rigondeaux was back in action. He was the Cuban guy who fought Lomachenko a couple years ago. The only one lost on his record. He's like 1,000 years old now, but he won in a TKO in the 8th round. He was getting hit a lot more than I'm used to seeing because Rigondeaux was pretty much seen as the best defensive fighter right now and one of the top defensive fighters of all time. And that says a lot because there's some great defensive fighters like Nino Locke and Floyd Mayweather out there. So Rigondeaux won his super bantamweight fight. And Joey Spencer, we talked about him before when he only had his first and second fight. I think he's about 9 or 10-0 now. He won by unanimous decision. A little hard to step up in competition, man. So he definitely, took a big step up, and hopefully we can continue to see him in the future because I predicted he'd be a champion about a year ago. So we'll see, man. And that's about it for now. Nothing really coming down for a few more weeks. So kind of quiet right now. So we covered most of them the other day. Oh, I will say this. Nigel Benn's son. I like Conor Benn. Nigel Benn, former British great champion. Conor Benn, his son is welterweight. He won by TKO in round 3. He's trying to continue to build his resume up and continue his undefeated streak. He's already had a couple wars, and he's definitely a warrior like his dad. I mean, so we'll see how that goes, but he improved. I can't remember his record, but I know he's undefeated. He may have about 8 fights. So he got the victory. But other than that, man, that's about it, man. Nothing really coming up until July when you got Pacquiao versus Thurman in late July, and then, towards the end of the year you get more of the heavyweights coming back. Joshua Ruiz rematch coming either November, December, and Dillian White coming up in a couple weeks. So a couple more weeks we'll have some more action.
All right, sounds good. Let the folks know where they can find you before we get up out of here.
Indeed. find me on Instagram at pugilist_HQ on Instagram, and also at P from Charlotte on Instagram. That's the letter P from Charlotte on Instagram.
All right. Well, Paul, appreciate you taking the time out and breaking down some baseball and some boxing. And appreciate it as always. You have a good night. And I'll let you get up out of here before I play the outro music so I can get up out of here.
Yes, indeed, brother. Always good to be on.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
All right. I appreciate all the Facebook watchers and comments, questions. You know, it's one of the most interactive we had on the basketball talk, so appreciate that, fellas. Make sure you check us out every Monday night. We'll see what we got going Thursday. Might do a replay if nothing really going on. We cover so much stuff tonight. I see what's going on for Thursday. And I believe the ladies are on Thursday night. So on everyone, this will be back. Thursday night, we had a replay last week when I had some other engagements to go deal with. But appreciate you tuning in, checking us out. Make sure you check out the website, SportsOTHP.com. Make sure you go follow the Facebook page, SportsOTHP, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all the same. Hashtag CP3, hashtag SportsOTHP, hashtag TRU RADIO Network, or hashtag TRU RADIO Network LLC. Just Google us. You're going to find us. You can't help it. We're everywhere. And we're about to be expanded beyond there. So, in this feed right here,